Hi everybody, Steven here. It's been a little while. I've been busy doing some teaching and stuff. But anyways, so we've got our VCF management domain deployed, but now we need to do the guided setup. So let's take a look at what that's all about. This is going to be part 6 of our VCF series. See you in a bit. All right, thanks for sticking around, everybody. Why don't we jump into it? But before we do that, I always like to throw this out there. Please support the channel if this is stuff that you kind of like. Supporting the channel, one way to do that is subscribe to the channel. Really easy. Click on that subscribe button. Liking the content is also good, and sharing it's also well. I also have super thanks, but that's totally up to you. So why don't we jump into this? Let me get my thing going here. This shouldn't be too long of a video. So our management domain is set up. I've got my single NSX Manager cluster. If you haven't seen that video, that was part 5. So let me go into my let's go into my SDDC Manager. I'm going to log into it, and I think that's the right password. I'm not going to bother updating it. There we go. And it's got this little task thing starting up. I'm just going to close that down so we have a bit more real estate. So over here, it talks about the guided setup. Now, this is kind of the first thing you're going to see. If you've gotten rid of this or you closed it or whatever, you can go under here, whatever that help is, and you'll see guided tour, guided setup. All right, it'll bring you back to this. Under guided setup, step 1 is learn and plan. So all this stuff you should have had planned out. I'm not going to step you through all that. It's just making, check this, check that. Make sure you've got all your, make sure you have your plan in place, right? I'm going to go through step 2, which is configuring the SDDC Manager. Notice the first thing is register a backup server. Yeah, that sounds like a good thing to do, right, folks? Then we also connect to identity provider. Then we connect to an online depot. I won't be able to do that, but I'll step you through it up to a certain point. Then I got to stop because my account at VMware doesn't have access to this stuff, right? You'll see up here it's complaining about backups. It also says there's an update advisory. Okay, whatever. We'll just leave that. Now, under licensing, we notice we've got this little red mark on licensing. So if I click on that, it says Cloud Foundation is running one or more workload domains on the software-defined version. I'm going to have to blank out these licenses. But again, over here, it's basically telling you to go to subscription tab to learn more if you want to change over to the subscription, which pretty much you're going to have to do because all the licenses changed. I'm not going to worry about this. I'm going to go into here. I'm going to go into my guided setup again. Step 1 is registering a backup server. Let's click on View Details. So right over here, it's going to guide me through here, which is actually kind of nice. You could do this manually if you wanted to. Down over here to the right, you see on the left, you see there's a backup server. I could have done it through there. But anyways, let's go through the guided setup. So I'm going to click on Next. At that point, it just comes up and gives you a little bit of information about the backup server, right? So it says by default, backups of the SDDC Manager, NSX Manager, are stored in the SDDC Manager appliance. Change the destination of backups to an external FTP server. That's basically what we're going to be doing, right? When you configure this external secure FTP server, the SDDC Manager will use the details provided to configure SDDC Manager and reconfigure all deployed NSX managers to use this. So this is kind of nice, all right? I can go over here and say, I want to skip this if I want to, and it'll kind of ignore that, but I'm not going to bother. I'm going to click on Next. Now it comes over here and says, hey, these are the prereqs. So you got to make sure all this stuff's set up. External FTP server must support ECD, SSH public key. Only a user with admin role can perform the task. You need the SHA-256 fingerprint and RSA key of the FTP server or secure FTP server, and you must configure an external secure FTP server for file-based backups to schedule automated backups. Okay, so it kind of goes through here. For the most part, I just set up a Ubuntu server, and that's what I'm just going to set up as my secure FTP, just for my lab environment here. I'm going to click Next. Okay, so let's enter in my secure FTP server information. I'll put in its IP, 172.20.10.30. Put in the port, it's port 22 because for SSH. Put in my username, my username on that. Again, it's just an Ubuntu machine I made for secure FTP server. So it's called VMware. It's the user I'm using. I'll put in its password. You'd probably on your backup server create a user called FTP backup or something like that, and a proper password. I'm going to specify my backup directory, my full path. I'll go /home/ VMware backup, whatever. The browser's kind of kept that, right? And then at that point, VMware /backup. There we go. And then at that point, you actually see there's this SSH fingerprint. It automatically pulled that in for me when I entered this information and put in the password. So it checked it and it looked at the thumbprint. And this is why you need to have that information. You want to make sure, oh, yep, this is the right one. You don't want to make sure that somebody didn't put a rogue FTP server there. So I'm going to say, yep, I'm confirming that's the right one. Okay. Then you want to put an encryption passphrase. You'll need this to do a restore, so you want to make sure you don't forget it. And kind of surprised that they don't have you retype this, to be honest with you, in case you make a typo. So you may want to check it, type of thing. All right, that would be used for restores. I'll click on register. I'm not going to bother now saving that. It does a little bit of gurgling. Now at this point, it's asking me to set up automatic backup, which is good. So I'm going to select recurring backup here. Now, how often do you want to back up? Weekly, hourly? This is going to come down to you. How often are you making changes, right? So I'm just going to say whatever, weekly, just in my example. I'll pick Sunday at whatever, 9:01 p.m., whatever. Do you also want to take backups on state changes, right? So anytime you make a change or something, it's going to do a backup. That can get pretty excessive, but again, what's your environment, okay? How often do you want to retain your last backup, right? How many numbers of backups do I want to keep? Maybe I want to keep 2 of them. How many hourly backups do I want to keep? Maybe I want to keep, like 5 of them or whatever the case may be. And how many daily backups do you want to keep? So this, again, is going to go back to how much space you're willing to burn up as well, right? And how far back do you want to go? You may have certain backup policies in your environment. I'm just going to say save, all right? Oh, it probably came up with a little... No, there we go. So it's done. It's done now. So if you configured SE for automatic backups, I can say backup now if I want. Notice my next task is to configure identity provider. Let's hit the backup now. But before I do that, let me just do something. Let me minimize this. And let me connect to that backup server, 72.20.10.30, and the user is VMware. I'll type in my password. Again, I wouldn't advise using VMware as the user. And if you notice, I got my backup directory. Oh, sorry, that was from an old one. Let's delete it. Okay, there we go. So my backup directory is empty. Oops. It's empty, okay? Well, that was from a previous one there. So it's empty. Now, when I go into here, let's do a backup now. I'll say backup now. And it says it has started. Let's get this task up here. Let's expand the task. And you see fetching subtask. So it's doing some stuff here right now for me. Let me just kind of minimize that. So it's doing actually a backup. How long is this going to take? Probably take a few minutes. So I'll probably just wait for this to finish before I continue on. So you see it just did a few things there, right? So I'll just let this run for a bit and then we'll just come back in a couple of minutes. Okay, so my backup completed. It didn't take that long. I just kind of let it go through for a few minutes and that's it. Now I can go on to the next step, which is connect to an identity provider. So let me click on that. Gives me my overview. So this allows me to integrate like Active Directory users to manage my SDDC. I'll probably do a separate video on user management, okay? But for now, we're just going to connect to identity provider. I'm going to connect to my my internal LDAP or my internal Active Directory. So I could skip this step if I want to, but I'm going to say no. I'm going to click on next, right? Okay, so let's pick my identity provider. I'm going to pick embedded. I'm not using 80 over federated services. And then under here, I'm going to select Active Directory over over LDAP. I'm going to click next, and at this point, it's going to ask me for my settings here. So I've got basically a really simple AD environment here. So I'll type in my source name is vclass, right? Then at that point, I want to put in my distinguished names for my users. So I'm going to type in cn equals users, DC equals vclass, DC equals local. I'm going to copy that and paste it down here. I think I didn't make any typos. What's my domain name? It's vclass.local. I'm not going to worry about an alias. It's asking me for my user credentials here. So I'm going to basically type in my vclass/administrator. This is how I got my lab environment set up. And then at that point, it's asking me for the password. And then my primary... So my primary URL, this is where my LDAP is. So it's going to be LDAP / I'm going to put in my IP 172.20.10.10. That's mine. Almost put in 30. And then it's port 389. I'm not doing any encryption or anything like that. Let me make sure I got my stuff there correct. And certificates, I'm not going to worry about my... I'm not using... secure LDAPs here, right? So again, in your real environment, you're probably going to want to have something like that. I'm going to click next. At that point, it gives me a review. I'm going to say submit it, and then it turns away, and it looks like it was successful, right? You successfully configured an identity provider, right? The next step here is for me to go to connect to the customer Connect Depot. This is not going to work for me, okay? My account has no access there. Hey, if somebody at VMware could help me out, that'd be great. I could do some really good videos here. But this is, if I click on this, is for the online depot. I can click next. At that point, if I got a proxy set up, I go great. The online depot is for your SDDC manager to be able to download updates and all that kind of stuff, right? If you don't have a direct connection to the internet, you can go through a proxy. You can also even import the stuff too, right? Maybe I can do a video on that down the road. Who knows? I'm going to skip proxy. We don't have that. Now at this point, since I have a direct connection to the internet, I could type in my username and password here, but I don't have access to any of this stuff, unfortunately, right? Again, anybody at VMware can help me out. Hey, I'd really appreciate it. So I'm just going to go back to here. Actually, if I go to here, no, it's not going to let me skip it. Whatever. There. Now I'm going to click on, let's go back to here now. Maybe it'll let me do this. No, I don't think it's going to let me skip. Next. Skip, and then authorized, whatever. So back to setup guide. I'm going to go save. So right now, I was hoping it would let me go back in that step. It didn't, so I had to go back to my setup guide. So notice over here, my backup server is registered. My identity provider is also registered, but I have not connected to Online Depot. Let me go to View Details. Let's click on Connect Online Depot. And at that point, it says progress has been saved. Okay, I'll say resume. And then I'm going to say skip this just so I can clean that up. In the real world, I'd probably leave that alone and say, okay, let me get the proper account. Okay, so you should have a proper account, but I'm going to say skip in mine. And I'll go back to my dashboard. So there it is. I basically did the quick setup. Let's look at my backup here. If I click on backup, you'll actually see I did a backup that was successful, right? So that's kind of nice. Let's go back into my secure FTP server. Let's go, if I go back to here, backups. Oh yeah, I got to refresh this. And where is the refresh button? It's right over here. There we go. And you'll see there's actually, this is where the backup is. I'm not going to go through and explain all this at this point, but you can see there's a backup here as well of my configuration. Later on, maybe I'll do a restore, but that's not in this video right now. So let's kill that. Terminate that session. One thing I also do want to show you, let's go into my NSX Manager. Site ADS NSX Manager, and let's log in as admin. Is that the right password? I think that is. Let's find out. There we go. I'm going to go skip, and then I'm going to go System on my NSX Manager, and I'm going to go into Backup and Restore, and you see it's configured. There, it configured a backup for me, and my last backup status was successful. All right. So it did all that for me, which is kind of nice. But anyways, that's pretty much it. Perhaps I'll do a video on doing a restore, but we'll wait for that one. We're going to still build our environment. But anyhow, that's it. I hope you found this beneficial. If you found this useful or even entertaining, hit that thumbs up. Please support the channel by subscribing. Also, if you got any questions or comments or something you want to see, leave the comments down below, okay? And that's it. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.